Welcome to the Next Chapter Experience podcast with Jeanette Lissette. Thought leaders explore the mindset, wellness, and wealth needed to realize next level transformation. Let's get started. Welcome to the Next Chapter Experience. I'm your host, Jeanette Lissette, and today's guest is Clint Arthur. Clint is the provocative, truth-telling author of 21 best-selling books, including Celebrity Entrepreneurship, Breakthrough Your Upper Limits on TV, and his Pulitzer Prize nominated masterpiece, Wisdom of the Men. A serial successful multimillionaire entrepreneur, trusted marketing advisor, consultant, and coach to thousands of private entrepreneurial clients, with enterprises ranging from $1 million to $1 billion in size, Clint influences well over 100,000 independent business owners annually through his social media platforms, his seminars, his live events, and his coaching programs. Clint, let's get this conversation started. I have to tell you, you had me at the Wisdom of Men. I actually downloaded the Audible, loving it, loving that book and the story that's associated with that book as well. This is one of the things that I really love about you. I wrote some things down here. I hope you don't mind me paraphrasing. It says, I am 100% committed to promoting Wisdom of the Men and looking forward to dazzling you and your audience. I pull no punch, no BS, straight no chaser. I threw that part in, okay? When I was listening to it, I thought he was telling the truth. It is straight up, no BS, straight no chaser. And being from New York, I understood that, okay?
Yeah. One time I told some girl, I was on this mastermind call with all these heavy hitters, right? And they go, okay, everyone introduce yourself and say what you're going to bring to this mastermind. And I said, okay, I'm Clint Arthur. And what I'm willing to do for you guys is I'm willing to check out your product, listen to it, watch it, whatever, and I'll let you know if it sucks. And that's what I said. Now, I had a mentor. I had the great privilege to be mentored by 5 National Speakers Association Hall of Fame members. And one of them was also a fellow New Yorker. And I heard her say one time, she goes, I'm a native New Yorker. I am not going to send you flowers before I tell you that you suck. Now, this is just New York, and we are just straight, no chaser. And the real deal, that's exactly what I do in all of my work. I'm always happy when people tell me the truth. I want to know the truth. It doesn't help me for you to sugarcoat stuff or for you to tell me stuff that's not true about how you feel about what I have done. That doesn't help me at all. And another thing I never do is I will never try to think, how is that person going to be responding to what I say? I'm never going to outthink or psych myself out of saying something that I believe is true. I'm always going to tell it like it is. And I'm really excited to be on this show with you because the next chapter, I get a lot of people who come to me after very successful careers. And they've made a lot of money and they've had a lot of impact and had a lot of influence, and they want to shift to something else, or they want to go to the next level in a different way. And I believe a lot of those people who have not written a book should write a book. And that's a big part of the next chapter, is writing a book. Because what I have found is that when you write a book, it makes you better at whatever you are doing or trying to do. And if you take the time and effort and use the discipline to formulate your ideas into the shape of a book, it really helps you to take your authority and your expertise and your positioning and everything that you're trying to do and move it to the next level. And for people who don't have a book, I'm sorry, you got to have a book.
I have a book.
Yeah, good. I was worried when I was saying it.
When I actually made my transition out of the corporate environment into my own self-proclaimed space that I own, and the first thing I did was write a book. It's called Blissful Leadership, and it really is a recount, if you will, or look back at some of the experiences that I had as I went down the professional or corporate journey and entrepreneurial journey during the span of 30 years.
Hey, leadership, it's not just the one thing. Not only do you have a book, but you have a book on leadership, which is the most important topic. My whole life changed when I decided that I was going to be a leader. I remember it, and I'm pretty sure I talked about it in Wisdom of the Men. I remember I came home from a men's team meeting, and the next morning I was in my walk-in closet talking to my wife. I said to her, hey, last night at the team meeting, the leader said we're going to be picking a new team leader at next week's meeting, and I think I want to step up, but I'm afraid that if I do, that I'm going to be late, or I'm going to do something else that's going to screw me up, and I'm going to get fired, and this will be a negative stain on my life instead of a positive thing. And she goes, you know what Tony Robbins says, if you're afraid,
You must.
and that's why I did it, because I was afraid. And God bless her for having taken the seminar that I took her to, and for being a good student and smart, and for just putting it right in my face, because that changed everything for me.
You know what amazed me about that story? When you made the decision to show up and you stood in that circle and someone came into the circle and then figured out, nah, it's not my time. Boom, out of the circle. And then you stood there. They had that funky name. What was it?
It was Kryptonite Junkies from the 17th Hell. That was the name of the team when I joined it. And it didn't make any sense to me that this was going to help us to get to our next level of success and achievement in life. I assigned, you have a right-hand man who's your executive officer. And I said, look, I want you to accomplish a name change. And I don't want to dick around with it. Let's just make it happen. You got 15 minutes to change the name to The Men.
Yeah, I know, that's why I love that, The Men. I thought it was just very prophetic to go down that route, and then everything you did as a result of that was just amazing. I remember in one of your chapters you quoted Oprah.
I said, Oprah, what's the most important thing you ever learned? She said,
Mhm.
You are responsible for your own success. Just like that. Boom. I mean, with so much force and authority too. I learned so much from her about telling stories and about emotional connection. Do you know that her parents met one time as teenagers under an oak tree, and that was it? That resulted in Oprah Winfrey. One time, and she was raised by her grandmother.
That I knew.
It's so amazing. And she's 100%. I mean, it's entirely up to you.
I have a lot of conversations with individuals who think it's someone else's responsibility to open up a door here, you clear the path here, lead you to this and that. And I've always been a believer coming out of the projects in the Bronx that success is on you. You have to own it.
God, where'd you go to high school?
I went to art and design.
Oh, okay.
Yep, art and design.
Was art and design behind Lincoln Center?
It was on 52nd Street and 2nd Avenue.
Okay. My brother went to music and art on the other side.
Music and art. He went to Stuyvesant, where you have to be admitted to the school.
Yeah. Look, these schools that we attended changed our lives. And growing up in New York City changed our lives and shaped our lives. And the things that we do, I really believe that some of the things that we do in life change us inextricably. They put their tentacles in you and it changes you for the better. And for me, I have found that the people that I have met have had a massive influence on my life, including the 5 presidents of the United States that I met. The first one I met, since you're interested in leadership and President's Day is coming up, I think it's good that we talk about the leadership lessons. As a matter of fact, it's President's Day coming up soon. And I'm doing 5 TV appearances around the country on the topic of leadership lessons that I personally learned from 5 presidents of the United States. The first one that I met was George H.W. Bush. And it was a complete accident. I was just schmoozing a friend and client in his kitchen of his restaurant, which if you've ever been to the Wynn Resort in Las Vegas, the restaurant was called the Danielle Boulou Brasserie. It's across the hallway from the steakhouse on the lake. I'm just talking to the chef, and then he's got those little stir wands that you can make your cappuccino or stir your little pot on your stove. He's got one the size of a baseball bat, and he's stirring a big vat of lobster bisque. And I go, Philippe, you're the executive chef of this multi-million-dollar restaurant. You got 20 sous chefs working for you. What are you doing here at 11 o'clock in the morning, stirring a pot of soup? Why don't you assign this to one of your chefs? And he goes, because I love it. This is my métier. And that means this is what he's born to do. And I'll talk more about that. But just at that very moment, in comes George H.W. Bush and 2 Secret Service agents just walking through the kitchen like they're out for a stroll on a lovely Sunday morning in suit and tie. And I go, holy cow, that was the president of the United States. And this chef goes, really? He had no idea. Now, look, this is another example of how you are responsible for your own success. This guy, he could barely speak English, honestly. And he didn't know who the president of the United States was. And he didn't go to college. He'd been working in kitchens his whole life. But here he is, the executive chef of a multi-million-dollar restaurant, the French brasserie at the Wynn Resort in Las Vegas, a pinnacle of food in the world. And he was responsible for his own success. He made that happen. So I go running out after George Bush and the Secret Service, and I go up to the Secret Service guy and I go, wow, could I have a picture with the president? And he goes, sure. Now, how did I get to have a picture with the president? This is 2008. There was no iPhones in those days. This was a result of me having attended a seminar, and it was a seminar by Mark Victor Hansen, who was one of the guys who created Chicken Soup for the Soul. Been a writer all my life, writing Wisdom of the Men. I'm so blessed. It was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. That didn't happen by accident. I've been a writer since I was 16. When I was at Stuyvesant High School, I was lucky enough to actually, when I was even younger than that, I used to write stuff. But when I was 16, I had a teacher named Frank McCourt for an elective class in English called creative writing. And Frank McCourt went on to write his memoir, Angela's Ashes, which won the Pulitzer Prize and influenced and inspired all of us to want to be writers and to think we had a chance at being a writer. And I thought many times, if Frank McCourt could do it, I could do it. And I don't know.
You are. The story kind of reminded me of when I was at Art and Design and I selected a college I wanted to go to in Philadelphia. I know you went to Wharton School. You'll know this college. I selected Drexel University. So I applied to Drexel and they said, yeah, everything looks good. Your grades are great, but you're missing one course that's required because we're an engineering school. And so the course was trigonometry. So here I am, okay, senior in high school, minus one course. And the only option I had was to go to night school. Now, be it Manhattan to the Bronx was like 2 buses and 2 trains for me. Okay, so here I go to night school when it's dark. All these adults are in the class. I don't know what the heck is going on, but I took that course. I passed that course, got that information to Drexel University and got a scholarship, okay?
Yeah.
So I realized, honestly, you got to do the work.
Scholarship to Drexel is a lot of money.
You got to do the work and be willing to do the work. So that resonated with me. So I appreciate that.
One of the reviewers who read my book and reviewed it wrote a quote as his headline for his review. A quote from my book: everybody wants to hit home runs, but nobody wants to do the work. I hardly even believe in home runs. I never get home runs. I've done a lot of stuff in my careers, and I've had several different episodes of my career as an entrepreneur. I've done a lot of different stuff. I haven't really hit a lot of home runs that I can think of. It's all singles and doubles with a stolen base here or there.
I feel that because one of your students,
Rafi.
Oh my God. I just could not get over that interview that you had with him. And he was just going to town with everything that he did, all the follow-up to TV appearances, how he showed up, went from the tie to the bow tie. And it was just remarkable.
Look, he's a perfect example of a next chapter, because what I try to do is find what you really have. What are you really? And then to help you to get to the next level using what you already have. Rather than inventing new stuff, let's take what you are and reshape it into where you want to go. And Rafi has fully embraced my whole philosophy of celebrity entrepreneurship. And what that means is, do you think Tony Robbins is a celebrity? That's a real question. Do you think Tony Robbins is a celebrity?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here to tell you that Tony Robbins is nobody. And that's why he had a TV series years ago, and it was on the air for 6 episodes and then gone. But here, hey, do you know who Tony Robbins is? No. You thought you knew who he was, right? You have no idea.
No, I actually don't. I thought he was an actor. He's not an actor.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay. And I could show you many more from different Starbucks, but I'll show you a different demographic so that no one thinks it's just the wrong demographic. Here's some construction workers in Los Angeles. Hey, what do you think of Tony Robbins? Know who he is? No, really? Do you know who he is? Okay, it is the wrong demographic, because a celebrity entrepreneur chooses a target market to go after and then deploys celebrity marketing assets on that target market. That's really what celebrity entrepreneurship is all about. And Tony Robbins is the example of what celebrity entrepreneurship can do. I myself, after I graduated from Wharton Business School, I moved out to Los Angeles and started chasing the Hollywood dream, which put me behind the wheel of a yellow cab for 6 years. And you don't do that for fun. You don't drive a yellow cab for 6 years for fun. You do that because there's no other way for you to survive and pay child support and manage to keep a roof over your head and eat 2 Whopper Juniors for dinner on a good night. I was able to extricate myself from that ditch that I had dug for my life after 13 years of chasing that dream, while all my fraternity brothers were making millions and some of them billions on Wall Street. And I was making $500 a weekend driving a cab to survive. And finally I said, I can't do it. I can't take this anymore. And I started to focus on making money and changing my life and becoming somebody and having that's all I wanted was a normal life. That's all I wanted. Tony Robbins was very influential in that and helped me to get over some of the things that were holding me back. And we fast forward many years to Tony Robbins' 60th birthday party, which was 2 years ago in February. And I get an email from his team. It says, hey, if you donate $25,000 to Tony's favorite charity, you could be the host of his birthday party. And it took me less than 60 seconds to click the button and donate $25,000. I was a guy who used to make $500. And here it was like, boom. I'm so grateful for the influence of Tony Robbins in my life. I'm so grateful for what he did for me and helped me to transform myself. And I'm also so grateful that I was able to donate that kind of money after what I had come from. And that night I said to Tony, 20 years ago, I couldn't buy the CDs for Personal Power 2 because the tapes were $30 cheaper and I had to go for the economy version. And tonight I was sitting in the front row and he's, I'm so happy for you, brother. I'm so glad it all worked out. He gives me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I said, Tony, what's the most important thing you ever learned? He said, life is happening for us. And I really do believe life is happening for us. And let me just finish the George Bush story and wrap it back up and wrap it around. I took this seminar with Mark Victor Hansen. It was called Mega Book Marketing because I've been a writer for all this time. As I said, the people that I've met have had huge influences on me. Oprah Winfrey influenced me as a storyteller. Frank McCourt, a Pulitzer Prize winner, creative writing teacher, influenced me as a storyteller. My best friend in college, his father was a movie producer. He won the Academy Award for Best Picture for his movie Platoon. And then he produced The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves, Murder at 1600, Wesley Snipes, Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger, $100 million movie for Warner Brothers. He was the king of Hollywood. And he influenced me in his storytelling. And if you haven't looked at The Fugitive lately, watch The Fugitive. That's a whole movie about the monster that is this giant pharmaceutical company. And I think it has more relevance today than ever. Unbelievable. And Mark Victor Hansen at his seminar, you are responsible for your own success. I've been studying and taking seminars. That's how I really turned my life around, was through personal development and self-help seminars. Tony Robbins, the men's weekend, which put me on the men's teams where I became a leader of my men's team for 2 years. And all these things I've studied and done every seminar and studied with every mentor. And Mark Victor Hansen at his seminar, he said, hey, you need to walk around with a little digital camera in your pocket. This was before cell phones had cameras. They were just cell phones. He said, because you never know when you're going to meet somebody famous or important and you're going to want to get a picture with that person. So I go up to the Secret Service agent. Hey, could I get a picture with the president? He said, sure. I take my picture with George Bush and it's one of my prized possessions. Here it is. And if you can see, he's wearing there's little parachute guys on his tie. And George Bush, after we take the picture, I said, sir, what's the most important thing you ever learned? He said, young man, that's a very big question, but I have to say, you have to keep doing the things you love in this life. Now, this is not a political message. I met 5 presidents of the United States. I talk about how that happened in the book with each one of them. Not one of those stories is a political story. This is not a book about politics. This is a book about life lessons and wisdom, timeless wisdom. And George Bush is famous for loving parachuting.
Yes.
He jumped out of an airplane on his 80th birthday.
I remember that.
It was in Time magazine. It was a big deal. And here he is walking the talk. You got to keep doing the things you love in this life. And he's got a parachute tie that he wears on a Sunday walking around in the Wynn Resort. And that's the lesson of meeting George Bush, is to keep doing the things you love. I wrap it back around in the book talking about, but this is my métier. See, Philippe, his métier is cooking. My métier has been writing. I love writing. I'm a writer. I chased the Hollywood dream for 13 years. I wrote 30 feature film screenplays in 13 years. I don't know anybody else who's written 30 screenplays. Do you? I don't know anybody else who's met 5 presidents of the United States. Do you? But I wasn't making money as a writer. I had to figure out, how do you make money as a writer? And there's a lot of people who are writers, and I say everybody should write a book, especially if you want to take your life in a new direction, or if you're an expert in some topic, you need to have a book. But you need to also understand, how do you make money? Because if you don't make money as an expert in what you love, you got to figure out how to make money off the back of what you're doing somehow. And if you don't make the money, you're not going to be able to continue going. And that's really where I help a lot of people to figure this whole thing out. Because if you're trying to go to your next chapter in your life, you better figure out, number one, how to do what you love, like George Bush says, because you have to. Otherwise, why are you doing anything? And number two, you got to figure out how you're going to make money from doing what you love. And I'm blessed to have coached literally thousands of experts in every different genre of expertise about, how do you position yourself as somebody special in the eyes of customers and prospects, ideally a unique position in the marketplace, so that you can get paid a lot of money by being a celebrity entrepreneur, targeting a niche in a marketplace and positioning yourself as a celebrity the way Tony Robbins has to you and me, but not to that construction worker and not to that barista, because they're not his target market. And luckily, if you can do this, if you can be a celebrity in the eyes of customers and prospects, what I call a celebrity entrepreneur, you don't even have to be as famous as Tony Robbins. I think I'm like 1,000th as famous as Tony Robbins. And yet I've been able to earn millions of dollars by achieving celebrity entrepreneur status in the eyes of customers and prospects. I invented this whole science of celebrity entrepreneurship. They don't teach it at Harvard Business School, I know, because I've spoken at events sponsored by the Entrepreneurship Club of Harvard Business School multiple times. They don't teach it at Wharton. They don't teach it at USC. I graduated Wharton. I spoke at USC. And I asked the professor, they teach this in Hollywood? Nobody teaches this. I'm the only one who teaches this. If you're looking for help in getting money out of your next chapter, I love to mentor smart people who really are ready to take responsibility for your own success.
I appreciate that. And just to inform you, I've been doing my research on you and taking a look at some of the videos that you have posted. And one that may have been recent, I believe it was a retreat in Acapulco. And you had a whole set of your students or mentees, if you will. You were drilling and grilling in terms of helping them to create or design the story in a compelling way, their particular story. And I observed how painstaking it was for many of your students to, number one, volunteer to actually share the story. Because I remember you had that large oblong table, and it was a self-selection process. Who's next? Who's up next? Who's up next? And then when you were actually critiquing their stories, you gave some really dead-on big feedback to them. But I can tell you right now, it's not for the faint of heart at all.
Look, my favorite quote from General George S. Patton: accept the challenges so that you can feel the exhilaration of victory. I'm alive. And look, I really believe that story is the key to everything. You want to know, how do you determine the meaning of your life? It comes from the meaning that you can determine for your stories of your life. And if you don't tell these stories, they're going to fester inside of you. They're going to make you sick. They're going to give you cancer. You've got to get these stories out. And also, it's the best, cheapest, most powerful and potent form of marketing that any expert can have, because anytime you open your mouth, you could be doing marketing with your stories. And if you work them and refine them and revise them and get some guidance from somebody who knows what they're doing, then you can really get a lot of great marketing every time you talk to people. And you can be rehearsing and practicing when you're at the supermarket, or when you're on the bus, or when you're at a dinner party. You can always be practicing and working on your marketing. When you get to the point where you're a celebrity entrepreneur who's a master communicator, which is the goal for most of the students that I work with, then basically wherever you go, you talk to people and enroll them into high-priced programs that help them to achieve their goals and ambitions with your assistance. I really believe that there are things that happen to us in our lives that do change us. And one of my missions is to have impact on people's lives. It helps to give my life meaning, to know that I'm improving the world and making it a better place, especially for people who are looking to take their life in a direction and avoid years of wasted time chasing the wrong cheetah through the wrong set of trees. You got to know what you're doing because there's so much competition in the world. And I really get a lot of value in my life from helping people to make their dreams come true.
It's obvious that you are having impact and great influence. I respect the work that you're doing. As we wrap this up, Clint, you mentioned the event in Las Vegas in September. Are there any other live events that you are going to be staging in the near future, in the next couple of months? Or what's going on with you? What's next?
Yeah, look, I'm a firm believer in pulling out all the stops and not waiting till next year. Living my best life now, okay? I think if there's anything any of us have learned from the events of the last few years, it's that nothing is for sure. Why are you saving those frequent flyer miles? Let's use those miles right now. Let's use the points and do what we want to do and make the best effort we can at making our dreams come true. So if you want to find out about how you can participate in my version of Best Life Now, go to bestlifenow2023.com. And you can find out about my $1 Million Business Accelerator, which includes the speaking events, Acapulco trainings, other trainings. I've got opportunities to meet celebrities like Joel Osteen. I don't know if you love the Reverend Joel the way I do, but I've got something set up with him and more other great stuff. And that's all at bestlifenow2023.com.
Got it and got it. So I will make sure that's included in the show notes, no doubt. So again, very much appreciate your time today, Clint. I was looking forward to this opportunity to actually talk with you and have this conversation. So thank you so much.
I had a great time. Thanks, Jeanette.